You know, for more than 5 years, RFL has been covering the ongoing fight over affordable housing and housing discrimination when it comes to New York's Westchester County. The county agreed to settle the discrimination suit, this going back to 2008, under a previous county exec, Andy Spano. Now, Westchester admitted that it hadn't done enough to further fair housing, a requirement for counties and communities that receive federal housing funds. The county also agreed to build 750 units of affordable housing. Now, it's a deal. The county executive, Rob Astorino, has, while he didn't craft the original one, he has vehemently opposed it and its implementation, accusing the federal government of quote-unquote social engineering, also adding that home prices and property values are behind the relative lack of low-income and minority residents when it comes to the county. Now, federal government has also charged Astorino with deliberately dragging his heels on complying with the settlement, a finding that has been backed by the judge overseeing the case. Now, the focus of attention has shifted to specifically the town of Harrison in Westchester, a high-end affluent community cited by the feds for its lack of low-income units. Harrison has refused to require more affordable housing, and now the federal monitor overseeing the settlement is demanding that Astorino pick locations where construction will happen, and he's asking to see what communication Astorino has had with town officials on the subject. And for more, we turn to David McKay Wilson, reporter with the Journal News newspaper. He's been following this story, I'd argue, probably closer than anybody. Has also been the face behind the paper's Tax Watch feature as well. David, good talking to you.
Good to see you.
Okay, in many ways, tomorrow's a very important day for this, isn't it?
Yes, well, tomorrow, the county executive has to tell James Johnson, the federal housing monitor, how many units and where they're going to be in Harrison. And this is really the showdown that we really haven't had in this case yet. This is a very important day to see whether Astorino is going to punt.
Yep.
Or there has been no movement on the part of the town of Harrison, I can tell you that much.
Astorino has long said that, I'm the county executive and this is the town of Harrison. How can I, as the county executive, make law in Harrison? There seems to be some validity to that argument. What's Astorino supposed to do to comply with the settlement? Well,
he's supposed to use his authority or his persuasive powers to work with Harrison. And it does say in the settlement that if worse comes to worse, he could actually sue the town. Now, he's not going to do that, but that is a remedy that he has, is to sue a community to move on this.
Before, David, we go into where this goes from here, play a little fact or fiction with us with some of the things. We've had the county executive on many times, and we've had his opponent as well, the New Rochelle mayor. And there's disagreements, so maybe you can clarify. One is that Rob says, whether I like it or not, I've been compliant with what's been ordered. We've been building units. We've been keeping up to the threshold that's been demanded of us by the feds. We've been singled out and victimized, but whether I like it or not, I've played ball. Is he right or wrong?
Well, yeah, he's been playing both sides of it. He's been working with the communities to get them voluntarily to build. On the other hand, he's been campaigning, and it's been a politically popular position to fight the federal government. But this year, he had to make the 450 unit. And there's some question as to whether he's actually going to make that threshold this year, because they've included the Chappaqua units down by the train station in Chappaqua, which the county approved the funding for, but that project still needs these variances from the state, which are not in hand yet.
Now, the monitor and the feds, they have a hammer where they can withhold funding, okay? You speak to the county exec and you said, we really haven't been hurt by this. There's been threats, but they haven't been followed through on. Where are we on this? Is it 10, 20 mil? How much has the county really been harmed by in terms of funding that would have come our way if we were more compliant?
Well, the weird thing about this case is that the communities that have been penalized for this have been they've withheld the community development block grant funding. I think it's about $15 million, but it's been from communities who aren't part of the settlement.
Right.
Port Chester, Ossining, Peekskill. These are communities that don't have to build the housing because they already have the affordable housing there, and they have racial minorities in good numbers in those communities. Those have been the communities that have been penalized. Now we're at a point, though, that if Westchester doesn't make its number, there could be fines against the county. And They need to have 300 more units in the pipeline by the end of 2016. And all of the low-hanging fruit and some of these projects that were already in the pipeline, Astorino needs units, because he said that he's been making his number, but next year's number is going to be very hard to make.
One more, and I know you got some, Andrew, but for me, this is where we always go round and round when I have Rob here with me. I said, listen, it's not your fault. You didn't sign this deal. It's your predecessor. He got in the bind. Andy Spano did this. In this very building, I moderated a debate between the two of them when Rob won the second go-round, which was, you didn't like the deal, and he criticized him for the deal he made, but a deal was a deal. The county executive signed it. The county legislature passed it. Is Rob trying to have it both ways, where he doesn't like the terms of the deal and he's just not going to abide by it? Or is he right with his argument that the government has changed the goalpost repeatedly from the original terms of the deal, that they keep changing what's required of the county?
Well, that's the argument on the zoning analysis, which is a whole nother issue, which has been kind of this very arcane argument, which hasn't really gone anywhere. It's still kind of hanging out there, but the federal government hasn't gone to court to cite him in contempt for not doing it. It's just kind of out there. But Astorino has had it both ways, because his administration has been working. They've got these units in the pipeline, but he's campaigned and won election twice in opposition to it. And he campaigned statewide for governor, again opposed it, which brings up an interesting point regarding the governor, because the governor in the race held this against Astorino. But the affordable housing advocates have asked Cuomo to step in Harrison and get the MTA to require housing at the 143-unit project at the Harrison train station. And Cuomo has been silent.
Yep. Andrew?
Well, one of the arguments that Astorino is fond of making is saying, look, a lot of this is just based on home value and property value. I don't make Beyonce and Jay-Z money, so I can't buy the house next to them in Scarsdale. Harrison is a similar type of environment. I guess one of the questions is that the argument that we're getting from Harrison or from the other communities that are named in this, which is, look, that's the property value in our community. It's the equivalent of asking a low-income neighborhood to say, well, you have to build a couple of mansions because you need some income parity.
Well, it's a question of a community providing housing for all income levels. There have been numerous court cases in New York that have said that this is a community responsibility. The Berenson decision. The states of Connecticut and New Jersey actually have a state law that have codified such decisions, and they actually have state laws in Connecticut and New Jersey. The Mount Laurel decision in New Jersey. There's another requirement in Connecticut that if they have multifamily developments, a certain percentage has to be set aside for affordable housing. New York does not have such a law, so they've never codified the Berenson decision.
But there's also another element. We took the money. The county took the money. Now, maybe Rob didn't take the money because he wasn't the county executive at the time, but we took the money, and with that came stipulations. We might have liked the stipulations, but we weren't also forced to take the money. And I know, Andrew, one final thing here before.
Well, I'm just curious if you have a sense of, there's been a lot of pushing back and forth between HUD and the Federal Monitor and Astorino pushing back, and it seems like everybody's trying to do, move the needle on this without actually sort of a real kick in the pants, as it might be. Any idea when the judge in this thing comes back or might come back and just say, like, look, you got to do this or else? Do we have an or else date here?
Well, I think this Harrison issue could be the. I think this is the showdown. Is Astorino going to?
What do you think happens?
I don't know, and it's going to depend on the housing monitor, because he hasn't been especially hard on there's been criticism of him.
A lot of talk with everybody.
Yeah,
I've listened to everything you've said, the ins and outs, but let's break it down to the common denominator here. How much of all of this is a question of race?
Well, housing and race, that's Westchester County. That's Westchester County's story, isn't it?
So everybody admits that race is a factor, but that the tool or the mechanism is through the housing costs and affordable housing.
Right. Through the housing costs. But how much is this a question of race? Let's keep the people of color out.
93%.
There's an echo of Yonkers in all of this.
Okay.
Right? I mean,
And as you said, tomorrow we're going to learn a lot, and we're going to learn a lot as to how much finally the talking is going to start and the doing, one way or the other, is going to go down. David, I'm very curious to not only how it goes down, but also how you explain it to we the people. David McKay, well, thank you so much as always. Great to have you. Okay, when we come back, everyone, we're going to bring in our legal team here. We're going to be asking a retired judge also her perspective as it pertains to the justice system. Does it really matter, you know, how the defendants come in and how that plays out in terms of the end justice at the end of the day? That much more, including, should we be electing judges to begin with? We'll be back with that right after this.